This is State of the Schools with LHweekly.com. I'm Tim Sohn, editor, and I'm here today in the office of Dr. Charles Maranzano, the Hopatcong Schools Superintendent. Thank you for being with us, Superintendent.
Thank you, LH Weekly, and Tim. Thanks for being with me today.
So let's talk a little bit today about how school districts are held accountable for overall quality, please.
We're in a new environment. Schools haven't been held accountable by any one single standard, except in the last decade or more, where there seems to be an over-reliance on standardized test scores. And I have to say to you that there's been a frenzy about test scores and international and national comparisons, and yet we're not really looking at apples to apples when we are looking at state testing. The best way I can describe this is when a student sits down to take a standardized test, there's so much variation statistically in the student population that it appears in test results. And the test results for a standardized sit-down one-time test merely presents a snapshot of a school division's performance. What's really needed is a motion picture. So the judgment of school quality shouldn't be limited to a quantitative standardized test score taken on one out of 180 days of the school year. And perhaps I can elaborate on that as we move through this interview.
Absolutely. So could you please explain a little bit about the role of the student achievement test in measuring school quality?
The student achievement tests are designed to benchmark where a student's proficiency is at a specific point in time. Here's the problem, Tim. We in schools are comparing student cohorts from year to year that are different cohorts. We're not comparing a student to himself or herself, which is what we should be doing. And so what the national associations are advocating for, especially when we reauthorize this law known as No Child Left Behind, is instead of looking at how did your fourth graders score this year compared to how did your fourth graders score last year, which by the way are entirely different people, we're going to start looking at growth models. What did our fourth graders do today? Where are they next year as fifth graders? Where are they the following year as sixth graders? And where are they 4 years from then as 10th, 11th, or 12th graders? My point being, if you start to take a look at what a student as an individual is accomplishing along a continuum, then you'll have a more valid understanding as to what the quality of a school division is producing. So a growth model versus a snapshot. Motion picture, basically, versus a snapshot. And what we need is this motion picture. Now, school quality isn't just about student quantitative achievement. It's about the quality of educational experiences that you present with a student. And we discussed a few weeks ago the 4 A's, what I call the four pieces of a stool, or the 4 legs of a stool: academics, the arts, student activities, and the student athletic program. Because not all learning is going to occur in the 4 walls of the classroom. And you might add a 5th leg to that, which might be, the internet now, the worldwide experience, the globalization that's come through the information age. But back to the 4 A's and back to how do we judge a school's quality. It's multifaceted. Okay, there are many layers to this. For example, I'll give you that every 3 years, school divisions in New Jersey, and I should say school districts in New Jersey, are required by law to undergo a New Jersey QSAC review, the Quality Single Accountability Continuum for Schools. And that QSAC is a state-imposed self-evaluation that is then reviewed by your county executive superintendents and passed along to the State Department of Education, which a school division is rated on its mission, that is to deliver quality educational services to children. Now there are 5 overarching areas, and I'll point them out to you. One of them is operations, very broad. It deals with facilities, the New Jersey Smart Accountability System, student conduct, safety and security, the student health and the way we track and keep records on students, and finally the amount of services that we provide, all in one category. All of those areas need to be judged or need to be evaluated in order for us to make a valid judgment about the operations of schools. That's one category. Then we move to instruction and program. We look at curriculum, we look at instruction, we look at our mandated programs, and we look at student performance. That's where your test scores fall in. Then you move to personnel, another whole category. How do we handle hiring? How do we handle the retention of teachers? How do we handle our resource, instructional priorities, and professional development? Next, you move to fiscal management, how your fiduciary funds and accountability are accounted for. The audits of your records, for example, your budget planning process, how efficient are you and how do you comport or comply with legal requirements. And finally, the overall governance of the school, the role of the administrative team, the role of your school board. How do we handle the evaluation of teachers, for example? How do we handle the priorities in terms of instructional budget, communications, ethics, ethical behaviors, and account for student achievement? That's a very broad look at the condition of schools, but that's what's required, not one single snapshot or one small slice, but what are we doing to develop and deliver a continuum of services to our children pre-K through 12.